Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the international webinar on cultural diversity and sustainable development organized by IASTM in association with irajwebinars. On the behalf of entire organizing committee, I'm Sripriya, organizing secretary. Would like to welcome you all for this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our organization. The motto behind this non-profit association is to bridge the gap between students, professors, academics, and industrialists from multidiscipline. Apart from organizing various seminars, expert talks, and conferences, we have various highly rated multidisciplinary journals in the field of science, engineering, technology, and management. Since our inception, we have been arranged various international conferences at various parts of the world, like New York, London, Australia, Hong Kong, Dubai, Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, India, etc. More than 2 lakh people across the globe are associated with us, and more than 5 lakh research papers have been presented and published during our journey. Today, I'm glad to welcome you all as a member of this fastest growing network for the advancement of science technology in terms of research and innovation. Today, we are very much fortunate to have an eminent speaker and expert who is joining this webinar as an expert speaker and guest. Our first guest is Sripriya Sarathy. She is working as a board chair at International Professor Project and the co-founder of Let's Learn Africa. And our second guest is Hayden Saul. He's working as a marketing professional, specialization in strategy, management, and creative media. He's graduated from Florida State University and certified from Harvard Business School. Now I'd like to welcome our professor, Dr. Sripriya Sarathy and Hayden Saul, to deliver the webinar.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm hoping my audio is working.
Yes.
Welcome, everybody. Oh, perfect. Thank you. My name is Hayden Saul, and thank you for that amazing introduction. Excited today to talk you through the webinar for cultural diversity and sustainability development. And Priya, are you on as well?
Yes. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yep.
First of all, I
Yes.
begin with an apology that the whole technical difficulty. I went back on my phone and everything is working here. So I'm going to begin right here. In the introduction, I was introduced as doctor, and I just wanted to say that if I get an honorary doctorate degree, then that's when I'll be a doctor. I do work with several doctorates and scientists, and Hayden knows it all. So that's just the introduction from my end, everyone. Can you still hear me, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. I put Rabindranath Tagore's saying here, "Oh, grant me my prayer that I may never lose the touch of the one in the play of the many." Yes, he's a Nobel Prize winner and everything. But when we're talking about diversity, it just felt like if you see that oneness in all the diversity, it's that much easier to proceed with, working in a diverse work environment. Hayden and I are blessed here to be in International Professors Project, which is totally, diversity is the name of the game. And then we took it, the next level, going to Africa as a continent and working with several African countries. And that's why we're here. And they selected us for cultural diversity and sustainable development. Hayden, do you have anything to say on this?
Awesome. Great kickoff. Thank you so much. And yes, diversity is the name of the game, and we're excited and blessed to be in positions where we constantly get to work in diverse environments, and excited today to share some of those thoughts and learnings with you.
Thank you so much, Hayden. I'm going to the next. Oh, what happened to the next slide? I wonder. Would I ask Mr. Isaac to do that for me?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Isaac.
Awesome. I lost the. I lost the view.
We're on slide 3 right now, if you're able to see it.
Not able to see it. Why is it that I'm having so many difficulties today? Okay. So we're on slide 3. I don't know if did we pass slide 2 already, everyone? Oh, so just a brief introduction here. We've taught in eight countries, and that's a certificate that we got from Rhapsody of Experiences. And I just wanted to share this with everyone. You would think that we got over all the technology difficulties. My audience, typically in Africa, prefer us teaching on WhatsApp. So I'm on WhatsApp all the time. That I'm not privy to the Zoom technology. So every once in a while, I do come on Zoom. I'm just sharing some of the work that we've done. We do internship programs here at International Professors Project. And with the guidance of Dr. Crate and Dr. Giridharan, we happen to do the internship for psychology students. We've done AI awareness in Africa. So I just want to share a little bit about us, but the more of it will come as we speak about the concepts. When I do move this slide, would I ask you all to move the slide?
I think I'm driving the screen sharing, so I can progress as we go.
Awesome. Let me see. I need to get back to the screen window. So. Hayden, how do I get back to the presentation there?
Are you on the phone app version?
Yeah, I'm on the phone app version.
Okay, I think if you swipe left or right, it should show you either more screens or.
All right, I'm here. So I have a question. I begin this with a question for Hayden. But before that, let me just give a small introduction. By valuing and celebrating cultural diversity, what we do is that we create a very vibrant, adaptive, and resilient society that benefits from the unique contributions of all individuals. Now, just as you have seen in the last few minutes, we've had difficulties with technology in it that I'm a bit slow with this. But either they can let go of me and say, you know what, we've done this person's technology, not savvy or challenged, and then we could leave it right there, or we include everybody to, and this is just me including myself in this, saying that you know what, we're going to help them and we're going to carry forward. So that's an experience that we felt even in places where we've conducted the program, where there's been an enormous amount of difficulty in reaching out to the audience. There were some of my students, to give you an example, travel as they listen to our lesson. So they're in a bus or a train and they're listening to our WhatsApp program. So I now have a question, and why we have Hayden specifically is that he works in the branding and promotion environment. So my question for him is, how can integrating cultural diversity and dialogue into social media branding contribute to business development? Hayden, I'll let you take over.
Great question. Thank you, Priya. So integrating cultural diversity and dialogue into social media branding contributes to business development by enhancing reputation, attracting diverse customers, and driving innovation. In cultural diversity in branding has become so important, and you start to see it really everywhere because brands want to really align with their customer. They want to know who's purchasing from them, what kind of experiences do they have, what kind of diversity are they experiencing in their life. And that way they can kind of more accurately speak to their customer, the person looking to buy from them, and understand what is their experience, what do they go through on the day-to-day. This helps both the consumer get a better product and also the brand really enhance their reputation and drive innovative products for diverse communities.
Thank you, Hayden. I'm ready for the next slide. So cultural diversity is basically coexistence, right? Interaction of people from different cultural backgrounds, beliefs, values, customs, languages, and lifestyles within a society or community. So basically, it encompasses a rich tapestry of human experiences, traditions, and perspectives that shape individual and group identities. So why are we talking about this? Is that we want to make cultural diversity as part of the brand. If your brand itself evolves with that concept, then you don't have to do a separate workshop on it, or have your staff trained on it, because you, as the brand evolves, so is the scope of the cultural diversity. So here I have a question for Hayden. Why is it essential for brands to engage directly with customers through social media platforms?
Yes. So brands must engage directly with customers through social media to really build those relationships, respond to feedback, and demonstrate accountability. Social media is one of those few places where people feel comfortable speaking their minds. They'll be in the comments, they'll be messaging the brand. So it's a place that you can get this real-time feedback of how was their experience? What do they feel about your products? Unlike any other media that has come before, you really have that opportunity to have a one-on-one moment with each individual based on their experience with your brand. So it's very essential for brands to be engaging in the social media spaces to really lean into that diversity and understand how are people interacting with their brand and what is that feedback or those thoughts that they're having.
Thank you so much, Hayden. So, in what Hayden said, what our experience has been here in the International Professors Project where we work, we noticed that, when you interact with your customers, you get exposed to various things. So, in it, okay, ethnic diversity, race, nationality, and ancestry. You get an idea of where they're coming from. And that's very, very important. And that only happens by interaction. Similarly, the linguistic diversity. People have various accents, as you've already noticed. We all have an accent here because of the languages spoken in the regions we live in. And then the same comes with, their religious diversities, as in the faith beliefs and practices, gender diversity. We know that that's a huge talk now, and we're still working on that particular area because it's a very challenged area. So how are we allowing everyone to express themselves in their roles? Similarly, with sexual diversity, with sexual orientation and identity, how are we including them in our work? Right? So we don't want to be in silos operating like, well, this is the only way we've always worked, because then you're not including some folks in it because you are yet to understand. Here's where cultural awareness is very important. Similarly, with age, we're different age groups. We work with all different age groups. And that's very important because these generational differences actually teach us where they're coming from, what are their experiences. Similarly, with ability, that's another thing. If someone's challenged with the way they think, they've got neurological differences, even physical, abilities, we tend to think that they can only do a few tasks. But in ability diversity, you realize that you tap into everyone's potential. Potential is another keyword I'll be talking about later. Similarly, with the socio-economic diversity, as in various income groups, education, and occupation. As you can see, you have to develop a product that's affordable for everyone, for different income levels, for different education levels and occupation levels. So that only happens if you include diversity and that cultural diversity in your very brand itself. Thank you. Hayden, next slide. So here's a question I have for Hayden. This is a very fundamental question. What does brand mean?
Such an amazing question. So I'm glad we're going over this. A brand refers to the identity and image and reputation of a product, service, or company. I'm sure everyone here has a brand that they love, something that every time they go to the grocery store, they're like, oh, I'm going to pick up this item. Or when they think about a brand that helps define themselves, we're like, wow, I really relate to this company. The clothes they put out look amazing on me and I feel amazing. It's that feeling of brand that really brings identity and reputation to something as simple as a product or a service. It includes a variety of different elements. So I'll talk a little bit about some of those now. The first being the name. When I say a brand, many names probably come to mind. If there's any brands that you really love, feel free to put them in the chat. I know for me, a brand I love, and I'll probably talk about through a lot of this, is Oreos, an amazing cookie that I can't stop eating. So the name Oreo, when you think about it, it's a cookie. You hear it, you're like, ah, yes, that's a wonderful cookie. Logos are super important when it comes to brands. It really helps define the brand, and when people see it, they know immediately. Taglines and slogans are something that come up a lot when it comes to marketing. Everyone can think of one of their favorite ads or one of their favorite TV spots where there was a tagline that just really stuck out, and you're like, it makes so much sense to hear that coming from this brand. Visual identity. This is one where I love to talk about Oreos. Oreo actually has a patent on their color blue. So their color and visual identity is so core to the brand that they have gone to a point where they want to make sure they own all of that. They own the colors, they own the type, they own how the cookie looks every time. So really owning and leaning into that visual identity. So every time you hear it and every time you think about it, you have the same image in your head. When it comes to tone and voice. So tone can be how a brand shows up. Are they funny? Are they serious? Are they doing taxes, so they need to be a little more serious and stern? Or are they a cookie and could kind of have some fun in their marketing? Another thing when it comes to tone and voice is a lot of that sonic branding. So when you hear a sound, you hear like the ba-da-ba-ba-ba from McDonald's, you really think of those brands because they really own that like tonality and that voice. Mission and values. So a lot of consumers now are looking for brands that are more than just a company they buy, something that they buy off the shelf, and that's the end of the moment. They're looking for brands that have value and mission. So a great brand that I like to think about in this space is a shoe company called Tom's. When you buy a pair of shoes, they donate a pair of shoes. They're kind of like Priya was saying earlier, that energy, that diversity, that new offering is really rooted in everything they do. Personality. So this kind of ties into that tone and voice. What is the personality of the brand? If they were a person that you knew, who's that person? Who would they be at the party? And lastly, customer experience. One of the most important parts of any brand is to make sure your customers are having a good experience, that when they are having not maybe the best experience, that they have a place to reach out and provide that feedback. So you as a brand can continue to mix up what you're offering, optimize, really learn from these customer experience moments to make the brand better and better.
Excellent, Hayden. You guys, if you notice in this particular picture that we have a road full of trees with pink flowers on it. So the reason I put it in there is that this is the vision. The company, this is like if you say that, I want to go to that road because that has flowers all over, that is your destination. But that is also your mission, as in you're driving in that road, as in that is your mission. So make your brand such that it aligns with your vision. Where do you plan on taking this company to? And then how are you going to get there? When I say company, this can be any nonprofit organization, non-governmental organization, a startup, or even a small initiative. Have your vision always. In the end, your mission and vision should almost look the same so that you're not working hard on separate trajectories. Thank you so much. I'm ready for the next slide. Hayden, you would do the key aspects of the brand, and you can go ahead and ask me questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So when it comes to the key aspects of the brand, we spoke about a lot of those elements that go into what is a brand. Here are those aspects that each brand will include. Brand recognition. Can you recognize it? Can you see it and know this is the brand? Brand awareness. Are you aware this brand even exists? Is this a brand that you understand is something that you could purchase? Loyalty. Is it a brand you like that you're willing to come back to? Are you loyal to this brand? Brand identity. Is this brand different than the brand next to it? Is one pair of diapers different than another pair of diapers? We want to make sure that brand has that identity. Brand positioning. So how does your brand position themselves in the market? When consumers see your brand of cookie, Are they going to know this is different than another brand of cookie? How are you different than the competition? And lastly, brand equity. Do people recognize this? Are they aware? Are they bringing all these elements together to make sure that your brand feels like a real place? So a strong brand can lead to customer loyalty, advocacy, and ultimately business success. That's where you want to make sure people are coming and purchasing and coming back. So, Priya, I have a question for you. What are we doing about inspiration?
Thank you so much. This is the question that we almost address every day. To some of the folks who have worked with me, I always say, be connected with your spirit, the you inside you. The moment you do that, you're always going to be inspired. So when you meet needs, the entire reason of why we meet needs is to help meet the purpose, right? So a simple example would be like, okay, today I've had my breakfast, I've had my coffee and all of that. I've showered, I'm rested and all of that. So my needs are met. Next off, what do? I work towards my purpose, right? Because why are we even meeting needs? So that's very important. We see many companies that we're going to be talking about sustainability. They're trying to meet needs and they're going on meeting needs, which is just profit making. But what is the purpose of that profit? What is your social responsibility? What have you done for the planet? Those are all the purposes. And yeah, it sounds altruistic, but you need to have these high goals for a reason. And I'll explain that in the coming slides. Each person in your organization basically represents the brand and contributes to the brand. So if you're treating someone badly in your organization, just because, okay, I don't like the word boss because that's very bossy already to begin with. So if I'm being bossy, what am I doing? I'm tampering with the brand because every person represents the brand. So what's happening is that my brand image is being let down. So-and-so is not feeling good, so they're not going to contribute their best because they're feeling down. And now I have tampered it by doing that. So in everyone's identity, it is their identity of feeling valued and respected. That's very important. We never think of that. We have all these big goals of sustainability. We need to have renewable energy, all of that. But what are we doing about the identity of everyone? That's when cultural awareness is important. Remember, they each contribute to sustainable development, just like the brand. So are we focusing only on renewable energy, which are all the energies that are there, the wind energy, the solar energy, all of that. But the most important energy are the people who are going to make that happen. What are we doing to renew their spirits? Because each person is a brand ambassador. Thank you so much. Hayden, I'm ready for the next.
Awesome.
This is totally your thing, so you can begin from start to end.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Awesome. So thank you, Priya. A brand represents the sum of all interactions and perceptions that customers, stakeholders, and the public have with a company or product. You said it so perfectly on the previous side that we talk a lot about renewable energy, but the real energy of a company are those employees. It's the people. It's the energy that the people bring to the company. So it really helps uplift the brand and create more around this based on the people. So it can invoke emotions, create loyalty, and differentiate.
We lost your audio.
The people assign a certain level of loyalty and connection to the brand. Cool. In essence, a brand is a promise of what a company or product stands for, and it aims to create a lasting impression in the minds of its audience. So the question here is, how can brands effectively communicate their commitment to sustainable development through social media? So I know in a few previous slides, we kind of really mentioned that they need to be effectively communicating, whether it's driving awareness, loyalty, and that social media is a great place to share this message. So how does this come together? Brands can effectively communicate by using clear language, everyday language that you and I can all understand. Sharing visual content, so creating either videos or infographics or kind of content that even if you don't speak the language, you would understand what the image is telling you. Utilizing relevant hashtags, that's something we talk a lot about in the marketing world. really want to make sure you're driving that relevancy with popular hashtags or hashtags that are very relevant to what you're doing. Engaging in conversations. Social media is definitely a two-way road. So consumers will reach out with their thoughts, their concerns, and it's up to the brand to then continue this conversation. And lastly, sharing progress updates. We know sustainability and cultural diversity are really big topics that are hard for brands to kind of change overnight. So people want to see that brands are working towards this.
Thank you,
Priya, any
Hayden.
add-ons?
So in this particular one, the specific thing where they said hashtags, that's something that I wanted to talk about. We use a lot of hashtags, and the reason we do that is that that was the first place where AI intervention, could be seen. You have the niche hashtags. Those are specific topic oriented. And then you have the broad hashtags. So the reason we use these hashtags is that you reach more number of people. If I just put environment and then I have a hashtag in front of it, it's a broad hashtag. But then if I put specific things like watershed, if I'm using that as a hashtag, that is a niche hashtag. So it's important that we follow these conventions, because the more number of people we reach, remember, it's not because it's for our popularity, it's more for our reach. The more awareness you create, the more there's going to be participation in the brand, which what we're talking about is sustainable development. This is not about money making, or it's not just about that. It is that and much more. I'm ready for the next slide. So I
Awesome.
can, you want me to go through the whole thing, Hayden, this one?
Sure, you got this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hayden. So sustainable, when we use that word sustainable, the question is, what are we talking about? Well, it could be that your method of harvesting, it could be how you're using a resource, or making sure that the resource is not depleted or permanently damaged. So pay attention to this word, this sentence. This is a very important sentence. Every person is a valuable resource. Do not drain them. Do not make them upset. When I say do not here, I specifically say that because we tend to overwork our folks just because we have a very altruistic goal. But if they don't get enough rest, guess what? That resource is depleted of its energy. So I speak about that a lot here in meetings and everything. So relating to a lifestyle, involving the use of sustainable methods, that's very important, right? Because sustainability is what's going to stay in the long run, capable of being supported or upheld, or having its weight borne from below. This is very important, pertaining to a system that maintains its own viability by using techniques that allow for continual reuse. This is something that Hayden and we follow in our work. We make sure that we always come with our best spirits. And that's why we try to rest as much. Resting is very important, because that's the time your creativity grows and you're able to be, you're maintained and you keep going, because that's important. Consistency in delivery is important. So here, this was a question that many people ask, what does this mean? Well, generally, if you notice, successes have a lot of ownership, right? If you've made a beautiful garden, you want to say that, well, I planted every plant in my garden, and so many bees come to my garden, and our company has this garden that's made by us. We love ownership of it. But whereas when things look bad, we're like, well, we had this landscape guy who came and did our garden, and he just totally messed it up. We tend to blame folks for failures, but whereas when we have a success, we are immensely proud of it and we say we're the ones. Now here I speak about, I just took this random statistics from somewhere. I don't know if these numbers could be tweaked and if there's any changes. We tend to think that, what can I do? This is the way I am. Probably it's in my genetics. Okay, 50% give, benefit of doubt. Yes, you have your genetics. That's why you tend to blame, or I'm just giving an example, whatever, you tend to get angry. But then 25% is nurture. Then you say, oh, the people who nurtured me, the society, my parents, my relatives, my neighborhood, that's the reason. They taught me only so much. That's why I did what I did. No, but you have 25% choices, right? Though there, no one can, come in your way. So what are we doing? I understand 25 is far less than 75, which is totally out of control. What choices are we making? To help make those choices, what is our inspiration level? So at all times, doesn't matter what your position is, I tell everyone, be a leader. I'm not saying be not a follower. When you're going to be helping everybody, you are their follower. I need not even say, if your interest is to help folks, you are their follower. But why do I say leader is that you always align with the purpose. Always align with the purpose, not always with the needs. Needs are something that's once it's met, what are you doing? Align with the purpose. Here, gratitude is very important. Even if there's a tiny bit of success, say thank you for it, because the moment you say thank you to someone, they've already met what you wanted. That means your expectations are met. If you don't have enough gratitude, what happens is your expectations tend to grow. If they're met, you become greedy. I want more, I want more. And if they're not met, you become angry. Why is it that this is not happening? Why is that I'm always let down? So always begin with gratitude. Any bit, little bit, tiny bit, started today. Ready for the next slide. Thanks, Hayden. So here I begin with a question for Hayden. How can sustainable development become a key aspect of a brand's identity and social media branding strategy?
Yeah, of course. So sustainable development can become a key aspect by highlighting environmentally and socially responsible practices. So environmentally and socially, whether it's helping the world or helping the people of the world, really highlighting those, kind of leaning into that. Showcasing eco-friendly products or services. So eco-friendly continues to be a topic that trends on social media, and you want to show that you're part of the solution, not the problem. What are those eco-friendly products or services that you can bring forward? And then lastly, sharing stories of positive social impact. I'm sure you've seen an ad or a commercial or a social media post about that really feel good experience where the brand was able to help somebody. They were able to partner with a charity to unlock something. They really share those positive impact stories of the work that they're getting to do.
Thank you so much, Hayden. So here on the top, if you notice, when the resources are finite and they should be used, very conservatively or very wisely, you're going to notice that this will lead to a lot of conflict, misunderstanding. So it's something as we proceed, we will talk about how to handle those kind of situations. I'm ready for the next slide. Should I proceed with this, Hayden?
Yeah, I can ask the first question, then hand it over to you.
Thank you.
We just learned so much about sustainability, but that opens the question for, is sustainability both a means and an end?
Great question. I'm a fond believer of making the end and the means the same. Why? Because put one work or one initiative and make sure that it also meets the end goal. So in here, I'm going to be talking about it being a means. Sustainability refers to practices and processes that help achieve a desired outcome. And that could be anything, and I will give some specific examples here, and then we'll proceed. So environmental sustainability is like, okay, how are you're conserving your natural resources? It could be the use of paper in your organization. How much paper are we using? Are we leaving a big paper trail everywhere? Right? And that's very important, reducing pollution and then mitigating climate change. These are the environmental sustainability, and we talk about it in all the contents that we develop here internationally. And here comes social sustainability. While we're trying to do that, are we hurting human rights? Are we making sure that our community is developing in the way it's supposed to? Are we promoting social justice? Just because we're running a industry that has got all these sustainable goals, are we employing folks that are underage? Those kind of things are all part of the social responsibility. And then comes economic responsibility. You want to generate economic growth, obviously, because the society tends to exist only if they have the monies to exist. So therefore, in doing that, are we creating jobs? But when we are creating jobs, are we just? So there's so many nuances in economic sustainability. Similarly, if you want to increase prosperity, which is productivity, just because you want to be a productive organization, are we overworking folks? So those are the nuances in sustainability that we'll be paying attention to. Hayden, I'm ready. You can ask me the question if you want.
Perfect. So up here, we learn a little bit more about sustainability, but if you could explain about OMG and why do we play the blame game?
Thank you. So OMG, here's a little secret for everyone. I learned this in a leadership meeting. OMG, we say that all the time. We say that, oh my God, or we say, oh my gosh, this happened. So we use this because it's easy to remember. So there are three businesses. One is others business, right? When I say others business, this includes animals. Everybody other than you is other, right? They're all others. Whenever we're always complaining, well, so-and-so is polluting the environment, so-and-so, this animal is doing this, and we're always talking about how they could have done it better. We are already in others' business. And you know how often we hear people, mind your own business, they say. Why? Because others, when you involve in others' business, there's going to be problems associated with that. Okay, then comes the M. I'll talk about M after I finish the G. G is, you can either, if you're a believer, you can say God's business. G is the whole, starting from gravity to everything is not in our hand. So when you see that you have tornadoes, hurricanes, and you have flooding, you have volcanoes, earthquakes, need I say, those are all God's business, I would say. In other words, it's the universe's business. We have no control. It works on a very big level. So when we are involved with that and we're worrying about that, what happens is these are two helpless areas. You cannot change others that easily, or at least they will not allow you to. Changing an animal behavior, you can only guide them, but you cannot, get worked upon it. So then we're left with M, which is my business. And so what is my business? My business is not to do this blame game. Even if you think that because of someone's inadequacies or lack of, responsibilities, we have a problem that came in the environment or that problem that came in our organization, instead of blaming, ask yourselves, what is my responsibility? This sounds like as if I'm a pastor here trying to tell you that, okay, what is my responsibility? I need to only worry about that. That's not why I'm saying this. We have an ability to respond. And what is that ability to respond? That's where the word initiative comes into picture. Initiative has how many eyes, you guys? There are so many eyes. In other words, what are you doing? Even if you're throwing one starfish that came to the beach into the ocean, you're saving that. You've heard that starfish example, I'm thinking. So there was this person throwing one starfish at a time from the beach into the ocean. Someone was asking, what are you doing? I'm just saving one starfish at a time. So what is your initiative? What are you doing? So that's why we do these awareness programs. We cannot change everything. We suddenly cannot stop pollution. We suddenly cannot make renewable energy as the norm. But what are we doing to build that awareness? That's important. Here, A, B, C. Action, belief, consequence. We are capable of taking actions through our initiatives. And then actions have consequence. Even animals, their actions have consequences. But the difference for us as humans is that we have something called, in between the two of them, called the belief in the self, belief in the system, the conviction that it'll work. So I would always say insert the ABC once you start taking actions. So here, sustainability as an end is the ultimate goal or an outcome, right? Which is that it perpetuates and it helps not just our generation, but the next generation, so that it's thriving and we live in a resilient planet for our current as well as future generations. So here, when it becomes a means, that's when natural systems are healthy and regenerative. Now, you may ask this question, that's not happening in my community. I'm like, what can you do? Oh, I don't have a car to deliver water to everyone. We have a water problem. I don't have a car. If I had a car, I'd have given everybody, so many gallons of water. I'm like saying, do you have a cycle? Of course, I have a cycle. Then begin there. Take your cycle and start delivering 2 gallons of water to 2 neighbors. If you could do that, then you're helping mitigate some bit of the trouble. So begin where you are with what you have. Sometimes it's not possible to have everything. When we went into the Africa program, we didn't have anything, not the knowledge, not the relationship. We built that. And so we learned it the tough way. So social systems are just and equitable. That's a state that you want to achieve. So are economic systems that are prosperous and inclusive. What is the step that you can take? If you have it, begin with what you have. Hayden, I'm ready for the next slide.
Awesome. And do you want me to, I can take this beginning and
You
then
could
ask you the question?
Sure.
Perfect. Awesome. So cultural diversity protects the environment by a few different of these methods. The environment is super important and it ranges by community. So some of these may be more relevant than others depending on where you are. But the first is preserving traditional knowledge and sustainable practices. So you want to make sure that you are protecting the environment and the knowledge that exists there through these sustainable practices. Promoting community-led conversations and resource managements. A community is made of more than just one person, but you may be the one to get everyone inspired. So community-led conservation. Fostering innovative and sustainable resource use. So resources are finite. You want to make sure that you're really fostering any innovation that can kind of help with this finite resource and create sustainability around it. Shaping environmental ethics and responsible behavior. So making sure that everyone in the community is really leaning into these environmental ethics and behaving responsibly when it comes to our environment. Conserving biodiversity and ecosystem services. We share this planet with so many different animals and creatures that we want to make sure that it is a safe place for them as well. Informing climate change adaptation and resilience as our world continues to grow and change, making sure that we're resilient and adaptive to what the world needs. And lastly, educating and engaging communities in environmental decision making. So some people may not know something that they are doing is polluting a certain water source. So educating people to let them know that this action is leading to this cause. And by valuing cultural diversity, we can support environmental sustainability and protection. So really leaning into that cultural diversity and hearing from everyone can create stability for the environment. So my question here is explain about what we need to replace for and make it from.
Thank you so much for that question, Hayden. We always say we work for a certain company. I'm working for making this salary. I'm working for this. It's a great way of saying things. It's the way we speak. My thing is, in your mind, if you can replace that as from. In other words, you already have all the wisdom within you. You have a reservoir of thinking. Granted, if you go into the third line, talent and latent, currently maybe your potential has not come out as talent in solving a particular problem, but you have the latent potential. It is yet to be tapped. If you have it, then the next person also has it. That means work from your potential, not for something. When you're working for something, it's like it's not yet happened. I'm working for it, we say. But when you're working from, that means you are resplendent with that resource, right? That is within you, and you're working from that place. It's like living from savings as opposed to working for a salary. Your savings are yours. You're working, you spending it from your savings. So that's the idea here, what we're trying to explain. And here I myself am going to ask this question: what does backward forward mean? So you know how we run this marathon from start to end, and we're like, oh, I just made 100 meters. I just made 200. I still got 800 meters to do. So it feels like it's a very tiring process. So I always tell that the best way of solving this is that mentally always run backwards, forwards. Always assume that you are in the finish line. Mentally do this as an exercise. And then run in your mind like, oh, I've already finished my 800-meter race. And then look back and run backwards and say, oh, here's 700-meter milestone. Wow, I made it. I made it to the 700. And then look at the 600-meter. Now, mentally, you're not exhausted because this is a path that you've already run. And because you're already in the finish line and running backwards, everything seems familiar. Here's where calculus and statistics play a role. Calculus gives us the amount of problems we have, the numbers, the depleting resources, the amount of smoke that's in the air, the amount of fog that's there. We're talking about all this, and there's a number for everything. We know that, right? Climate change has so many numbers. Calculus is fine, but what about statistics? Statistics introduce us to possibility thinking. The possibility can be, yes, we can make it, or no, you cannot make it. Even if it's 50-50, if it's 75-25, doesn't matter. There is a sliver of possibility there. So take that possibility and work with that. Even if it's small, you know that that can make a huge difference because it's shown that it is possible. So statistics plays a very important role in the possibility thinking. Calculus gives you the actual numbers or the reality of things, because that's currently where we are, but using your latent potential, you achieve it. So not yet is not never. Just because there's something is not worked out, you don't have to say, oh, that never worked out. It's not yet. It's going to work one day. Currently, maybe not. Maybe we're still on the road of making it happen, but it will. Thank you, Hayden. Next slide. Hayden, my question for you is, how can brands balance cultural diversity, dialogue, and sustainable development? I know I've made you say this repeatedly, but speak to the inclusivity aspect of it.
Yeah, and inclusivity is so important. And when it comes to marketing, it's hard to balance all of these things. So brands can balance by prioritizing inclusivity, making sure that their product or service is for everybody, kind of bringing everyone in, no matter their cultural diversity, to the brand to make them feel included. Engaging in cross-cultural dialogue. So social media is that place where you can have that conversation because you're so close to the consumer. Your fans, your people purchasing your product, they can have that conversation with you, and then you can kind of bridge the gaps in culture with these fans. And integrating sustainable development into the overall branding strategy. You want to make sure that sustainability, whether it's environmental or cultural, that it's fully threaded through the strategy of what your brand is looking to do.
Awesome. I'm going to take the cultural diversity just because it ties into some of the things that we discuss. Is that when you showcase a very diverse workforce, what happens is, and your stakeholders, you naturally are making more and more people feel that they can join in because they see a spot for them. So that's very important, how you showcase your cultural diversity. Signaling values of inclusivity, right? So are you including everybody, male, female, all of them, all genders, everybody? What you're doing is you're creating values, your values show alignment. Building trust and credibility through authenticity. Here's where you differentiate your brand in a crowded market. Trust me, today, every company wants to say that they are sustainable. Every company wants to say that they're paying importance to climate change and all of that. How is your brand different? Speaks about how you've incorporated this into the very minds of the people, inspiring, your employees. Your employee advocacy and the positive word of mouth is so important for this. I'm ready for the next slide. I know that we are short of time because of my delays. And so I'm straight away going to go into the questions here. I think I've already finished I repeated this. Okay. So environmental stewardship, social responsibility, ethical practices, innovative solutions, transparency, and accountability. I will be explaining how the innovation happens in the next few slides. This is a repetition, you guys. So I think we can move to the next slide. Hayden, I'm looking at time too. So stress is a very huge challenge. Hayden, if you can go through just a couple of them of the stress factors that, challenge sustainable organizations.
Yeah, of course. I'll hit on a few top level ones of these that I feel are super important and tie to some of the things we've already spoken about. So, number two, when it comes to burnout, sustainability professionals often experience burnout due to the emotional demands of working on environmental and social issues. We talked about earlier making sure that the unrenewable energy of your company is the employees. So, you really want to avoid that burnout and pushing people beyond what they're capable of doing and not letting them rest. And then the last one I'll touch on really quickly, just because I know we're short on time, is innovation. Stress can stifle creativity and innovation as you're moving so fast, you're trying to take shortcuts or try to just do the easiest item. But it's essential to develop sustainable solutions to make sure that innovation can be part of your process as you're growing, as you're going through these stressful times, that there still is the opportunity to grow in these moments and not just continue to take the easy or short routes.
Thank you, Hayden. I'm ready for the next slide. I was wondering if I can get the attention of Mr. Isaac, who's helping us do this program. If we could get 5 more minutes, and we will do it. I promise we won't go any more than that.
Yes, ma'am, you can take your time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Isaac. Hayden, so we are going to do this. So I'm going to proceed with the question. Do we really want to hear people complain? So this is something that day in and day out, you're going to hear people say, oh, this didn't work, that didn't work. There's a problem here, there's a problem there. So you cannot change people who complain. Sometimes you probably have to get a distance, because guess what? Your sanity is important, right? You want the complainer to fix the problem. And I'll explain some of the ways. I'm not throwing them and saying that, well, it's their problem. We'll show a way. But research shows that the more you expose yourselves, at least 30 minutes in a day, with people that are negative, basically it peels away the neurons in your brain's hippocampus. And so that's an important part of your brain that you need for problem solving. Here you have come to solve problems, but then now you're caught up with people's complaining issues and all their complaints. And then you're like, well, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know if we can even solve this problem. So here, once again, your talent attraction and retention it gets to be a very difficult ordeal because of the fact that stress makes it very difficult. You are not able to carry through your sustainability initiatives. Your supply chain management gets affected because of the fact that supply chain needs resilience and you need good relationships. But if you're in a bad mood, you're not going to even say hello to your stakeholders in the way that you're supposed to. You'll be like, hello, whatever, drop the things and just leave. There's a truckload of things, but you're just not interested. So those are other issues. Similarly, with adaptation to change, you're making a new change in the organization. The folks who are already stressed, do you think they're interested in what you're doing? Similarly, with the overall performance, stress is very contagious. You keep passing it on, and then everybody's like, okay, we're not feeling that good. So how to mitigate these challenges? I'm ready for the next slide. So I will have Hayden speak to the metrics, but before that, I want to say, what is stress? I spoke so much about stress. It is the time limit between facing a problem and our acceptance of it. It's not the time limit between the problem and finding the solution. You can't say, I've still not found a solution. The problem still is there. Why can't I be stressed? No, it's not that. It's like accepting the problem. Why should we accept the problem, even if we don't agree to it? Is that because the mind expects a certain timeline. The mental timeline is different from the universe's timeline. And that's where, stress comes in. Great leaders have a sense of acceptance. So, Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used to create them. Hayden, speak to metrics.
Yeah. So when it comes to metrics, what are the metrics that you can use to really measure cultural diversity, measure that dialogue that you're having with your customers on social media, and sustainable development initiatives on social media? There's a few different that you can start to look at to see, am I successful in what I'm looking to do? But you want to make sure at the beginning of your campaign or as you're doing marketing, what are you looking to set out to do? What do you feel like will be the most impactful to get that? So if you're looking to measure how much cultural diversity or what the conversation is about, you may look to things like engagement rates. Are people being engaged with you on social media and willing to have this conversation? If you're looking to get more dialogue, get more people involved, are you seeing follower growth? And then when it comes to sustainability of your practice, are you environmentally doing it correctly? Are you culturally doing it correctly? You can ask customer satisfaction questions, get people involved in giving you that specific feedback. And these types of metrics help you really measure how is your campaign or how is your marketing really doing, and hopefully helps you avoid some stress.
Thank you, Hayden. We're ready for the next one. So here is where the transformative change, and I work in the space of providing transformative leadership, whether you know, whatever that you have that brings you joy or sorrow, accept both. Why do we need to do that is that the mind loses its negative power the moment you say, I accept. Doesn't matter whether you agree to what has happened, just say, I accept. This helps you to lose that negative power. And then you no longer would be like, you know, I would have done this, they should have done this, we could have done this. Because remember, that's the stale past. Would have, should have, could have, are all already, you know, for the time that's elapsed. So you can't go back to that time. So the moment you accept, what happens is it prepares your intelligence. And the complaining otherwise can become a habit. So once it prepares your intelligence, you know what your mind says, I've accepted the problem, what next? So that's where acceptance comes. That's a secret of transformation. You're like, okay, I begin to respect whatever is the number of people that are affected by the problem, the country is affected, the region affected, and then I begin to care for them. Acceptance prepares the intelligence for a solution. That's when you start thinking, why did this happen? Why should this particular thing happen? And then you start working and you take your initiative a bit at a time. Remember, physical wounds heal, but mental wounds, they don't. That's why it's important to surrender and say, I accept, and then proceed with all the areas that you disagree and find a solution. Is there another slide? I'm thinking that, oh, we have one more. So what is the role of influencers and partnerships? How do they play a role? Here, Hayden, you can also talk about some of the partnerships that you and I have done in, you know, giving education and awareness and those kind of areas.
Yeah, so influencers and partnerships are super helpful when it comes to just amplifying that brand messaging. It provides credibility beyond just your own platform, and it helps you really reach those new audiences. So, in some of the work we've done in spreading education, we'll partner with doctors, PhDs in different areas of the world who have students, have coworkers that aren't people that we're currently speaking with. So, we'll look to share our message with them. We'll look to provide any information and kind of any education that may help them in their roles as they're looking to kind of talk about certain topics or different topics that are going on in the world. We can kind of help bring them some of that information.
Thank you, Hayden. I'm going to go the last 30 seconds, if possible, a minute. So if you want to reach out, you first want to expand yourselves. If you're in that constricted state, in that negative state, it's difficult. So transform yourself, then you will add value. When the transformation happens, the first thing that you'll notice is that you've accepted you've identified what are the places where there was a non-acceptance state. Once you've identified that, you know that by accepting, you're not agreeing. It is like you want to help someone, you first want to help your own self. And that's why you're removing that negative energy in you. Remember, a surgeon always sanitizes before the surgery. So the first thing is, how am I feeling? Only then you can start helping anyone else. If you are already in a very uncomfortable place, it's difficult to help anyone or any cause. So I'm thinking that was our last slide, Hayden, unless we did one more. Hayden and I work on this every day. Thank you. Do you all have any questions? We've taken up a lot of your time. We made it question and answer kind of session so that we answer some of the questions. How do the organizers want to proceed? Sir, Mr. Isaac?
Yes, ma'am. I think from our side, there's no question. So if anyone is there, can ask questions regarding the webinar.
Sure. Would that be in a written form or will I hear folks? Both are fine for us.
I think there is no question, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank
All
you
right.
so much, Mr. Isaac, for doing this. Thank you, Ashrita, for working with your team. You guys gave us an opportunity. This is something that we do on an everyday basis here with our African members and in our international groups. But coming to this forum made us feel like we're trying to, do a summation of all the work that we produce.
Thank you, ma'am and sir, for your valuable time and joining this webinar. On behalf of the organizing committee, iastem Conference and IRAJ Webinars, I'd like to thank all our sponsors and coordinators. And this video will be available shortly in our YouTube channel. Kindly subscribe our official YouTube channel, IRAJ Conferences and Seminars, for all past and upcoming webinars and expert lectures. Thank you all. See you another webinar soon.